587 registered for the program.
Yep, something like that. I think it's about 587.
Yeah, yeah. So it's just so neat to see this many this these many people registered, and a lot of our registrants will probably watch the program online, but still fantastic to see. I see the number increasing 151 so far, watching this program live. So, well, this program is kind of our public service for for our taxpayers, uh, because what I do at OSU, and I'm a professor and also a small fruit specialist. So small fruits kind of include things like blueberries, raspberries, and aronia, elderberries, and grapes, and a few other crops. And so the tree fruits, we know some, but this is not necessarily what we do every day. But we're providing a service to our folks across the state. So maybe Bradford can start the recording.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
already did, I think.
yeah. Oh, you already
Yes.
did.
Yep, I already
Yeah.
started. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So I already gave a short intro of myself. Maybe Bradford, do you want to say a couple words about yourself?
Yeah, Bradford Sherman, I'm a program assistant here. So my job is to kind of get you all here today. And it's always good to see so many people here watching us live. As Gary alluded to there, it's also very popular for people to go ahead and register, but then watch later on as their schedule permits. So we do make an on-demand version of this available. So if you have to hop out for any reason during the day, you can always either hop back in when you get time, or you can watch it in its entirety. I think about a few hours after we end today, you can use that same link that you used to join us live, and it should take you to the on-demand version of this, so you can kind of fast forward and find what you missed and check that out. So, but yeah, that's the big thing. And Ryan will probably touch on this more. He's sort of our Q&A guy, but we're going to have a question and answer uh, button down in the bottom where you can submit questions for our experts today. And Ryan, maybe do you want to talk a little bit about that aspect of the webinar?
Yep, thanks, Bradford. Yeah, as he said, so at the bottom of your screen, you're going to see a couple different features, but one of them is the chat window, which you're fine to use. But for any questions you have as the program goes along, put those into that Q&A section, and then that way I can answer them live, or I can answer them through type, or if we sometimes I'll see that we've got the same question coming up a lot, so we'll kind of pause and answer that live. But if you've got questions specific to the slides, put that in the Q&A. If it's more of a technical difficulty or something like that, put that in the chat. So Bradford kind of keeps an eye on that one. But for questions you have specific to the program, put that in the Q&A, and I'll work through those as we go through the presentation.
And also the link for registration that you have used to get to this point, you're still welcome to share that registration link with other friends who may want to watch the videos, and because the Bradford and I, we also Ryan, we love big numbers. And right now we're at 587, and Bradford said maybe 13 more will push us to 600. And I told him maybe we should aim for 1 million.
Yeah. I think they cap us at 1,000. One day we'll hit that.
Oh, okay.
I'm glad Ryan mentioned the chat because I always forget that I have to turn it on so that people can use it to chat. But it should be on now. So if everyone wants to say hello and where you're tuning in from, we always find that interesting.
Okay, no wonder people were kind of quiet.
Yeah, they were quiet. I didn't have it on.
So so you have to turn it on, and so this is yeah, this is it's just for my own curiosity. Yeah, this is nice from everywhere in Northwest. Let's see, Wakeman, Dayton, Dublin, Jonesboro. Oh, okay, Fredericktown, New Arlington, Plain City. Morrow County Galleon. Wow, this is nice. Wow, wow, we're
Arkansas. Wow.
oh, uh, oh, wow, hot spring, hot. Wow, that's far. That's far. Uh, okay, okay. Well, before we do anything, we always like to well, our biggest funder is the Ohio State University. They pay for salaries and all that. But we also get some funding from different groups and to make make these things twice as interesting. And first one is Ohio Grape Industries. Grape Industries Committee, and we get some funding from OGIC, Ohio Grape Industries Committee, to keep our grape extension program going. It's called Viticulture Extension, and so it's nice to have that funding to support us. Our efforts. And I have been also lucky to get a few what's called the specialty crop block grants to support the research extension efforts on a few things, blackberries, raspberries, and blueberries, and super fruits, and then you name it. And so right now we have one specialty crop block grant uh, project to work on long cane raspberry production system for for grower adoption for Ohio. So we're very thankful for their financial support. And with pruning, it's as you could imagine, to teach pruning in the classroom is always hard, and however, when we get these many people, it's very exciting. And then in terms of references, and I'd used this slide many times, and so the best reference is a Midwest Home Fruit Production Guide, and so that has some diagrams on how to prune different fruit crops and cultivar selection, and it's a national winner with American Society for Horticulture Science and also National Association of County Agricultural Agents. And so a fantastic bulletin, and it's been around for quite a few years now. So for those of you who want to read a lot about the principles and theories, this book it's out of print, and it's very expensive. And I bought it when I was in graduate school many years ago, and I think I spent maybe a third of my pay just to get this book. Very expensive, and it's still a good reference. And but anyways, and nowadays we probably watch a lot of YouTube videos to learn things. But anyway, so if you have a lot of disposable income, this book will probably dispose all of it. And I believe the price kind of changed a little bit. Maybe it's $33, but you can get it from our OSU Extension pubs, and it's just a very good reference. It's a spiral bond. You can put it on the counter and put it on your little gator or what, and it's just a very good reference. So today, I always tell Ryan it's kind of our Huey, Dewey, Louie show, and so two of us have done this quite a few times, and if this kind of a deja vu all over, and because Ryan used to work with me at OSU South Centers. Okay, let's go ahead. Go ahead, get started. And I always like this picture of my buddy, my good buddy Brian Haltzer, and he and we always kick jokes at each other, and I have to say, Brian has much better jokes, and when I go there and I listen to him and just forgot I was actually working. So good time all around, and he's Brian grows apples and peaches and nectarines and also maybe some vegetables, and he is also getting into grape production too. So he's a wonderful fruit grower and marketer in Amanda, Ohio. So he's watching our program today. So a good guy. So with apple pruning and the training, so it's I always tell people, boy, it's very hard for a typical gardener to over prune an apple tree. So if you this picture came from our Waterman farm, and they have been somewhat pruned over the year. Well, because there's no research on them currently, and so the pruning job may not be as great as it's supposed to be or should have been. But when a tree gets completely pruned, typical response by a homeowner is like, holy Moses, and did I just kill my tree? But it's very hard for anybody to over prune an apple tree, and unless you do a basal pruning, and then you would fix the problem for good. But just partial pruning, and then complete pruning. So after you prune them, you go like, okay, where would the fruits come from? But they always bounce back, but with a bunch of leaves and bunch of shoots. So some of you may have seen this before, and seen this before. So it's always good to look at these apple trees and kind of from a distance. And this particular apple tree, well, these apple trees have been pruned properly year after year, and this is just one season worth of growth, and it's just amazing after you prune them so hard, and then they come right back. And then this is my buddy Mark Schmidtgen, and he was a former farm manager at Waterman Farm at OSU, and he's also the owner of Heartland Orchard in Thornville. And it's pretty funny that they have been doing this for a lot of years, and every time Mark started talking about this could be their final year, but they are still going. They are still going. So I wanted to show people, when you prune your apple trees. So the whole idea is the tree. It's supposed to be, after you prune them, and the tree is supposed to be more of a pyramidal shape. So the top is narrow, and then bottom is wide. Just think about just a mechanism for harvesting sunlight. So top is very narrow, quite narrow, and then when the sunlight comes down, so you have a very even distribution of sunlight, because with apple production, you are just turning sunlight into carbohydrates or sugar, and sugar with carbohydrates and sugar would come in the form of these large nice apples. And so when you look at this, you're like, oh man, that's pretty drastic. pretty drastic. So what with apple pruning, probably maybe this would be a good time to get Ryan involved a little bit too. Are you getting a lot of questions already in Q&A?
Yes. Lots of questions.
Oh, lots of questions. So maybe one question for you is: have you gotten questions about how do I prune a neglected apple tree?
Actually, that is the exact question I'm working on right now. Yes, that's a good point. So we can work on that live.
Yeah. So yeah, let's do this live. It's a very maybe I'll give you a first jab at it, and let's see what whether you remembered what I had talked about. Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, that's a good point. I probably won't remember what you've talked about, but we get this question a lot because people will purchase a property that's had some old fruit trees on it that's been neglected for a number of years. Um, I don't. Maybe Gary's going to say the chainsaw method, but I don't. We'll see what you say. But um, some trees are just unsalvageable. If they've been neglected for a really long time and they've just got a lot of large dead limbs in them or a lot of disease. So sometimes it's just not really worth the effort or time to put into it. But some trees can be brought back into production. And I guess the way I always look at it is, whatever your end picture of what that tree is going to look like, it shouldn't be done in that first year. When it's this neglected, it's taken a number of years to get it to look at this point. So it's going to take a few years to get it looking back to the shape and structure of a tree that you want. So it's not you come in with a saw and pruners and get it back into the shape you want it in that first season. Because that just kind of shocks the tree. It tends to push out a whole bunch of water sprouts after that and young tender growth, and then you're just kind of fighting that the next season. But I think the most important thing is patience over a number of years to bring that tree back into shape. But Gary might tell you to just take a chainsaw to it and be done and plant a new tree. So we'll see.
Yeah, you and I can play good cop and then a bad cop. So the probably the first point to keep in mind is apple trees. They're they can live for a long time, but the productive life, we're typically talking about 20 to 25 years, and by then, commercial growers, a lot of commercial growers will just think about starting all over. So if your tree is like 30 to 40 years old and or older than 25, I would say the chainsaw method of the basal pruning, and that's always an option, because no matter how hard you try, it's very difficult to bring it back into a highly productive life. But for homeowners, and if they get a few apples, they might be happy with that. But if the tree is too big, and it would be hard for you to, convert a big tall tree into a dwarf tree. So I always tell people, when you have trees like this, and first question you ask yourself is, do I really like messing with apple trees? And after a year of pruning, spraying, and all that, if you still say yes, and then what I would do is I would purchase several dwarf trees and disease-resistant dwarf apple trees, and make sure they bloom at the same time, and for cross pollination. And so plant them nearby, and manage those, and then you start pruning this neglected tree. So what the first thing I would think about is, and I would look at this pyramidal shape. So just kind of just drawing a line, like this. like this, and then and then and then look at the central leader, central leader shape, and typically you would need 3 or 4 major scaffold limbs on the first tier, and then you have a gap of 28 inches or so in between. So very likely you will need to use a chainsaw to remove about maybe 6 to 9 large limbs, really large limbs, and to reduce the height, to reduce the spread, and to reduce shading, and then mark those, and then these 9 huge limbs, I would remove 3 per year, 3 per year, and hopefully during the third year, your tree will get to somewhat of a normal shape, and you see this person made a lot of large cuts, and the tree it's in much better shape now, but still it's not in a pyramidal shape yet, and so you still can cut off a lot of limbs. So I would still draw a line. Anything. So this is after first year. Second year, I would shorten these guys back, and then shorten the top. Just draw a line, and then cut where you have a side branch. So your tree will not end up like what these synergy people or this utility people will do. So this is better than what it was, but still not quite back to the ideal pyramidal shape yet. And then after 3 years, and if the tree still looks kind of awful and still not productive, I would think about just cutting off completely. By then, your young apple trees should be in pretty good shape, and so they can take over. But sometimes people love the presence of an old apple tree. It adds a lot of character to the landscape, and if that were the case, then you can still hang on to the tree. Yeah, hopefully that answers the first big question. When you think about apple pruning, probably the first thing to think about is where would the fruits come from. So apple trees, they produce fruits on these compressed stems. These are called spurs. So you will see flowers, and quite a few of them. Actually, you see a lot of flowers, and then I always tell people in terms of evolution, fruit trees, they don't really care about what we think. Actually, I'm not sure fruit trees are thinking at all. So what they do is just in terms of evolution, their goal is to produce as many fruits as possible when the environmental conditions are ripe or good for fruit production. So what they do is they produce a lot of fruits with seeds, and then the species can get to carry on. So their goal is not to produce a decent amount of high quality fruits. So they will just produce as many fruits that may or may not taste any good. But for wildlife, if they taste somewhat okay, and then wildlife animals will eat the fruits and then spread the seeds. So their goal is not to produce high quality fruits. Well, anyways, so these shortened spurs are the organs that will turn into fruits. And so when you look at them, you look at leaf buds. Leaf buds are kind of like this. kind of on the flat side, and then you have your spurs. So when you prune them, when you want to encourage vegetative growth, and you shorten this, and to encourage them to grow in the direction that you wanted them to. And then if you want to have fruit production, you save those. And then if you have too many spurs, and you can prune part of them to reduce the number of the spurs. So that's kind of what we do. And so pruning, it's kind of a nerve-wracking experience for some, and then not necessarily for others. And so when commercial growers prune them, and they prune them really hard, and because they know that whatever the branches that you leave, extra branches that you leave, that's just that's just a cost for shading, or overshading, over fruit production, and then the remaining fruits will not be as good. See, this is what they can you can possibly get is just from one flower. That's a if you let all of them turn into fruits, and they will be every single one of them will be kind of small and sour, and then not very good. So for commercial production, typically growers will let the one in the middle, and I always tease people, if you are a guy, this is called a king apple, and if you're a lady, and this is called a queen apple. But anyways, so you keep the one in the middle, and then you would remove the smaller fruits around, so the one in the middle will turn into a very nice sweet apple. And to thin the fruits, and for home gardeners, you could do this by hand, and then commercial growers can use fruit thinners. And it's always an art and then science to go like, okay, how much do I apply to thin the fruits? But anyways, it's always a toughie. So when you make a cut, and remember to kind of leave a little, do not cut this kind of flush to the bark, and then that's bad news. To leave a little collar, so the branch, so the side of a pruning cut will heal naturally. So make these pruning cuts, and then this is a picture of a kind of round kind of cut. Somebody just went in there and just used a chainsaw to whack off, or to top a fruit tree. And this is awful. You definitely want to have do selective pruning versus just a major whack like this. So when you look at these apple trees, and you go like, okay, where do you even start? Where do you even start? So this tree, again, these trees are again from Waterman, our Waterman agricultural research farm. And so when you prune apple trees, so I would always tell people, so when the shoots are vertical, and those are going to be vertical shoots are going to be always too vigorous, and vertical shoots would produce fruits, but the fruits will be too big and too soft. So commercial growers definitely do not like those. So if you see a vertical shoot, and then you would cut them off, and this is what they did to this apple tree, and a lot of vertical shoots were removed. And then if you see kind of a drooping branches, they will produce fruits, but the fruits will be shaded, and fruit quality will be very, very poor. And so the drooping shoots, and say for example like this, shoots that are going down, you will remove them. So the ones that kind of going 60 degrees or so, more like a horizontal or sideways, they have the best balance. So when it goes sideways, and always like those, and so you space them out on the shoots. So vertical ones, and they come off, and then the droopy ones, and they come off. So the ones that grow sideways, and they stay. So you kind of space them out, and so you spread out the branches evenly. So when when I do a pruning demonstration, I always either talk to myself or talk to the audiences. I go like, okay, well, I don't like this, and this is not good, and that's awful. So the vertical ones, they are called water sprouts. So they come off, and the droopy ones, and they're no good, and you just cut them off, and just use a lopper. You prune, you cut, and you save the best ones. And then a common question is like, how many branches do you save? And so we look at our overall pruning scheme, and so the apples should be spaced about maybe 8 to 10 inches, or 6 to 8 inches, and if they're off a little bit, it's not too bad. So if when you look at one apple here, and then you have another apple here, and you space them out evenly, in the tree, it's very typical to have too many apples, too many fruits. That's assuming that we do not have a frost, um, a severe frost. Growers, commercial growers, or experienced growers will always tell you that a light frost, is kind of nice, because it will knock off some flowers, and then it's a natural way to thin fruits, and nobody likes a severe frost where you have no fruit set. So I already mentioned some of these points. So type of pruning cuts, selection of training systems, pruning young apples, and bearing and neglected. We already talked about the neglected ones. And then I'm not sure if we can get to the slender spindle. So we'll see how that goes. So many different reasons to prune. So first thing is that you want to remove broken, diseased, and insect infested trees. So when you remove those, it's always good to get rid of those, and get rid of those, and also control tree size, height, and branch spread, the direction where where you want the shoots to go, kind of direct them. And then tree size, and because they naturally grow very big. If you when you purchase dwarf apple trees, they typically grow to be about 18 to 12 feet tall, but you still have to make the final cut on top, where you have a side branch, so to control the final height. And so the semi-dwarf, and that will get to be about 15, 20 feet tall. And for home gardeners, you definitely do not want a full-size apple tree that can get to 30 to 35 feet tall, and that's way too tall and too dangerous for anybody to go up there to prune and even harvest. And it's kind of getting dangerous. And also you improve light exposure. So you want the apple fruits to be fully exposed to sunlight. Otherwise, they do not turn color, or do not turn color completely. And then you also want to maintain fruitfulness, and so the wall exposed shoots will develop flower buds. And then you want to kind of encourage growth in certain directions. But this is kind of what many different reasons, and you also want to turn them into a different type of training systems. So we always like the central leader system because that's the most it's easier to understand, and it takes fewer skills to make it happen. Anyways, so that's what they are. Pruning shears and pruning tools. We have pretty much at our research center. We have them all, and the better quality pruners are much more expensive. I really like the Falco tools and Falco shears, but they are quite expensive. And then there are other different brands, and if they are good quality, and that's okay. But make sure you have sharp blades on all of them, and just maintain your tools every year and sharpen them and clean them and all that. Again, with tools, and do what I say and don't do what I do. I don't do much tool pruning because I'm not a commercial grower, but if you prune a lot, and then it pays to have really sharp tools. And pruning is just a removal of a part of the tree. So it can be a scaffold limb, just part of the branch, or part of the shoot, or a single spur. So that's called pruning. And pruning cut, and there are basically two types of pruning cuts. One is called thinning cut. You remove a branch completely, and another cut is called heading back. So you just remove part of it. And so like this, and you remove part of it, and so like part of a branch, and that's called pruning, heading back. Or if you just remove a branch completely, that's called thinning cut. Let's see. So just a pruning response. And so why do we make different cuts? And so if you have a dormant shoot, if you do not make any cuts at all, so it's going to develop things like this. They have very narrow crotch angles. We all know about the Bradford pear trees, or Calgary pear trees, and mature pear trees. 1/3 of a tree could just be broken off. Now it's pear tree. Calgary pear trees are considered invasive, and so there are still a lot of them in the landscape. So if you do not prune them at all, they're going to develop these narrow crotch angles, and they will likely break off, or they will just be producing a lot of leaves. So making a heading back cut, so it's always it's a good thing, because when you do that, then you have a shoot that grow kind of tall, but you have other branches that will have a much wider branch angles. So the ideal branch angles are somewhere between 60 to 80 degrees. 60 to 80 degrees. So when you have a branch like this, and this is still too narrow, so growers will bend them down to more like this, or sometimes nearly almost close to 90 degrees. You bend them down, you slow down the growth. And then, so that was a heading back cut, and a thinning cut. You could just remove extra branches and to thin them out to avoid crowding. So in this case, this guy gets cut off, and so this guy gets cut off, and you have 1, 2, 3. So this one gets cut off. So you use a thinning cut to remove a lot of branches to reduce competition. So we always say that the most common system is called central leader system. So you have a central leader tree, and then you have scaffold limbs, and you build one tier, and then you build another tier. But most cases, most cases, you have probably two tiers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you let them grow. Any maybe this will kind of make Ryan work a little bit. Any burning questions in Q&A?
Well, there's a lot of questions, and they're all fairly, not a lot of repeats, but a lot. Yeah, okay. One question that keeps popping up is timing, and I think you maybe mentioned that already, but um, in case anybody missed it, now really is the time to prune any of these trees. Ideally before they break dormancy or start to wake up. So, if it's nice at the end of February or March, really kind of is ideal timing, to get out there. Today's a beautiful day to be pruning. But the idea is that you want to try to prune these trees right before they wake up, because that kind of maximizes when they start to wake up. They start that healing process for any of the wounds that you leave behind. But if you wait too long, you can start to prune after they wake up, but that's not ideal, because then they're moving sap and all that stuff. So right now is the ideal time for pruning, and that question's popped up quite a bit, Gary.
Okay. We uh, I always tease people. It depends on how many trees that you got. If you
Yeah,
have like
sure.
50,000 trees, and I would say okay, starting December last year,
Yeah.
you would
Yeah, and I
not
know
be able
some
to.
growers that are around here that they've got 50,000 trees, I don't know. And they just sometimes they don't get to all their trees. So, it might be a biannual pruning for them. But, if you just got a few, then wait till the last couple of weeks in March and you're good to go.
Yeah. So pruning can be they can start in December and then go all the way to March. And if you just have one tree, always tease people you do that on March 1st. whether the whether it's a sunny day or a bad day. But anyway, anytime in March it's good. And so that's why we offer this program in March, and it's just a good time to do that. And then and some growers will do summer pruning, so whatever they missed, and if the branches are too crowded, and you can remove some of these branches to reduce shading on fruits. But with that, and one caveat is fire blight, and so make sure you clean your tools and hope for kind of a nice dry summer. Otherwise, that could encourage the spread of fire blight, which is a bacterial disease. So central leader, as you can see these trees, I would imagine they're probably about 25 to 30 years, and they are still quite productive. And so you look at these scaffold limbs, 1, 2, 3, 4, and you have a kind of a separation in between, and then you start building your second tier, 1, 2, 3, and then this is your top tier, and then this is a well maintained central leader tree. So central leader again, 1, 2, 3, 3 whorls. Let's talk about. Boy, the time just goes by way too fast. So when you training young apple trees, and when you get get an apple tree from a mail order business, and it's can be quite disappointing. Just a little whip. It's a little whip. If it has any side branches, and we call them feather trees. So it's when you get a tree like this, and so what you do is after you plant it, and then you can make one cut, and somewhere around 24 inches or so, and you make a slanted cut, so away from the bud, so make one cut, so, and then you will get a few branches to grow. So when they started growing, and then you could remove some of them, and then you can also see they kept the main central leader, and rest of them you may get 1, 2, 3, and then you bend them. They use clothespins, and these are not that expensive. These are not that expensive. You can purchase them from local stores, and then you could just open it and then clamp onto the main stem, and then place them right above these little individual shoots when they are nice and pliable. So so it's really neat, and they do a wonderful job in well, naturally the shoots will go like this, and then if you place place these right above the branches, and you will force them to grow more like 6 to 80 degrees. And then if it's a larger tree, and then you could just if you buy a larger tree in the nursery, you could just cut off part, shorten the central leader, and then cut everything else back. See, this is it's kind of counterintuitive, but you kind of want to cut cut the branches, and you have 1, 2, 3, 4. And then and this is something I learned from Dr. John Strand with the University of Kentucky. And what if you don't have a branch where you want a branch? And so you can make a notch like this 3 to 4 weeks before bloom, to force some of the buds to break. Put a notch above a bud, and then you force one branch to come out. And so you can cut back, pinch or cut back shoots in top 1/3 of the tree. So you will maintain the kind of a pyramidal shape. And then clothespins, and this is what they do. You place them right above these shoots, and you force the shoots to grow horizontally. And this is what they look like after you did that. And just these are this is a beautiful sight to see. All the branches are growing sideways. And then when the trees get bigger, even though you force them to grow sideways, and they will still try to bounce back, and then you will remove the extra ones, and because you only need like 3 or 4 per scaffold limbs per tier. So you cut back the top, and you cut back the side, and to maintain the shape. See, this is a kind of a well trained young apple tree, and so you have these almost these are 90 degrees, and when they come up like this, and you get about 60 to 80 degrees, and then use spreaders to kind of spread them out. So this is what they look like, and these are the spreaders, and you spread them out at least 45 degrees, and so 60 to 80 degrees are the ideal angles. So this is what they look like, and during the winter months, and then the spreaders can come in different sizes and different shapes, and then I just got several pictures from the internet, and so it's very important to keep them well spread. So 4th year they will start producing fruits, and that's always 3rd to 4th year. It's always a good thing to have some fruits, and so you can slow down the growth. during the 4th and 5th year, and you do a lot of thinning cuts. Do a lot of thinning cuts to open up the sunlight, and it's I think I mentioned this point already. Kind of a horizontal, moderate vigor going sideways, and those are the best ones for fruit production. The vertical ones, the fruit will be big and soft, which and then the fruits are not going to be well colored, so these are not good ones. And the droopy ones, we do not like them. So pruning cut, just make sure you cut it slanted away from the bud or node. If you leave too much of a stub, this will rot. If you cut it too sharp, the node bud will die. With large limbs, it's always a good idea to make a cut below, and then you cut, and then you make a final cut. So there are also another reason to make a strong cut is when what's called alternate bearing. Some varieties are known to produce a lot in 1 year, and the next year they do not produce very much at all. So if you know you have an on year, and then you remove a lot of flowers and a lot of flower buds. So even though you guys are not necessarily all commercial growers, and so it's very important to have a lot of high quality apples. See, this is a lot of fruits. Yeah, a lot of fruits and big fruits. So smaller trees are much more efficient in terms of fruit production. So when you look at most of the better fruits are the ones that receive a lot of sunlight. So good pruning will improve light sunlight absorption efficiency and all that. So let's look at what what Mark Schmidtgen does. And so lots of there are a few reasons. So I'm looking at my watch, and we have about 7 minutes left. And so what you want to do is you wanted to reduce the number of the flower buds and reduce some fruits, and so you want to concentrate all that carbohydrates into fewer flower buds and also fewer fruits. So all the remaining fruits will be very good. See so this is a cut, and Mark cut one vertical shoot, and he cuts them really very hard, which is the proper way to prune the apple trees. And so you when you look at this, and the shoots that I like are the ones that grow horizontal, grow sideways, and this I may want to cut it back too. So this is what see, he cuts a lot of he calls it suppressing strong growth vertical shoots, and he cuts them off. And sometimes you could do what's called a stub cutting. So when they get too big, and then you could just cut where you have a side branch, and then to shorten the tree, shorten the branch, so you would avoid shading and the competition. And then also the weaker wood, and when the branches are too small, you and also droopy, you can cut them off. And it's always good to maintain a good balance between fruit production and the vegetative growth. If you have too many flower buds, you may want to just remove some of them so they can produce some leaves and some shoots. So the final, when you make a cut, see, these are quite drastic cuts, but it's very necessary. So the final cut, you can make that to the leader, and so the branch, so the central leader will not grow any taller. But wherever you make a cut and you want to have a little pigtail, little side branch, and so when the carbohydrates come up, and they will kind of go toward that little weak branch. Otherwise, you would just have a big mess of water sprouts on top. So this is kind of what we like to see. Lots of spurs, and see a lot of branches were pruned off. So this is again the same tree. Mark looking at this, and this is after pruning. So this is after Mark pruned the tree off, properly pruned the tree, and so I even because I normally prune a lot of grapevines and blueberry bushes and raspberries. I'm never hesitant to prune those, but with apple trees, I'm still kind of somewhat nervous, and I tend to leave too many shoots. And then this is an apple tree after Mark pruned them off. And then I even asked Mark, like, oh, how many, where would the fruits come from? Like, how many fruits do you think this tree will produce this year? And then he said, well, look at this tree after they're pruned like this. He still can get 2 to 3 bushels of apples. So just pruning might sound very daunting, and sound very daunting to some, and but it's very, very difficult, to over prune. Just keep in mind, train apple trees to a central leader shape and pyramidal shape, and then the vertical ones, and you cut them off. Horizontal ones you keep, droopy ones you keep, and you also maintain a nice blank space in between first and second tiers, and then second and third tier you have a distance of maybe about 28 inches. You just sprays them out, and then you prune them. Prune them prune them very, very hard. Very, very hard each year, and they seem to bounce back they seem to grow so much, and during the growing season you go like, okay, well, that's fantastic, you did the right thing. Any extra space, any shoots you leave behind will just create more work for you. Let's see. We have and also make sure when you prune apple trees, if you see dying or dead branches from fire blight, and they look like blackened shoots, so with the fire blight infected branches, make sure you prune 6 to 8 inches below the infected area, and then you cut those off, and you can see the branches. They are blackened, they're black, and so. And also make sure you dip your pruning shears or loppers into either Clorox or alcohol to disinfect your tools. Otherwise, you'd be spreading fire blight. I'm going to stop here and see if we can catch a couple of burning questions from our audiences. Ryan, any questions? Ryan, do you have any burning questions over there?
Sorry. Yeah, I was muted.
Oh,
There's a bunch. So we'll touch on peach next, and
uh-huh.
those are pruned totally different from the apple. And then there's a question about cherry. I don't think we cover cherry today, do we, Gary?
No, cherries. Yeah, cherries are quite a bit different. Yeah, quite different. So yeah, we'll just talk about peaches a little bit.
And there was a lot of questions about where to purchase trees from. I would just say that there's a lot of online companies, we can't really make specific recommendations, but we've worked with quite a few and they've all seem to be good. The best ones will offer a warranty on their plants. So, if you get them and plant them and something happens to them in that first season, the company will replace them. And that's, I guess, probably goes to say the same for local nurseries. If they offer some sort of warranty on the plant, then I would feel pretty confident about purchasing those plants from them.
It's always important to get dwarf trees, and keep in mind that dwarf doesn't mean small, because semi-dwarf trees can be called dwarf trees. So make sure it's fully dwarf, and then on the sticker it says it reaches about 8 to 10, 12 feet tall. And also, when you plant them, do not bury the graft union. If you do, your dwarf tree will turn into a standard size tree. So that's always bad news. You wonder, oh, what happened? So the graft union, when you look at the top and the bottom, there's a little knob. And so that's where the graft union is. So make sure graft union is 2 to 3 inches above the soil line. So get the dwarf trees, and also get disease resistant varieties. So if you just Google apple growing and Ohio line, OHIOLINE, and then I have a fact sheet on how to grow apple trees, and the fact sheet has a listing of different disease resistant varieties. And the one common question that we get is, what if I only have space for one tree, and I can't grow 2 trees for cross pollination? And then you could purchase trees and that have 2 to 3 different varieties and grafted onto one tree. Or if you are brave and if you want to try grafting, you could buy one tree with a disease-resistant variety, and then you can grow many different cultivars onto the same tree. It will shock your neighbors, but it's always fun. Let's see. So maybe we'll just answer one more question, then we'll take a short break, and then we'll get back. Folks can stay on. You don't have to log off, so you could just stay on, and then we'll take a short break. Other burning questions about apple trees?
This one, I'm not real sure about it. This question is, do all or most fruiting trees produce their fruit on spurs, or is it just apple? And then specifically, they ask about mulberry and cherry.
Let's see. Actually, uh, uh, cherries, and I'm not sure about mulberries. Um, Cherries, they have flower buds on the shoots, kind of like peaches, and cherries are they're kind of almost like the somewhere in between apples and uh, apples and peaches. I've seen some spurs, but mostly apples and pears. They produce fruits on spurs, and some varieties will produce. Some apple varieties will produce flower buds on their side shoots, but that's kind of rare. So they produce fruits from the flower buds that were produced last year. So if you remove all the flower buds, then you will not have any fruits. Uh, Mulberries, and boy, I'm not sure. I really look at mulberries that closely, and we'll have to take a closer look and see if they produce any spurs. I don't really remember seeing spurs. Yeah, we don't really deal with mulberries that much, so sorry. Uh, all right. Well, it's 10:35, so we're gonna let's see. So maybe pause our recording. 5 now, and let's see. And Brad, do you remember how long the session will go to? Are we talking about from now to 11:30 or 11:45?
I need to find the flyer and check on that actually.
Yeah, that's okay. Sorry
I
to
leave these types of things up to you typically, but let me see if I can find I can't control you, Gary. You just go.
yeah. So just
I'm looking right
yeah,
now.
keep talking until I fall off the chair. Maybe Ryan will still type away.
It looks like 11:45.
Okay. 11:45. Okay, 1 hour. Okay, that makes sense. So, let's see. Did you get the recording started again?
Yeah, we're good. We're going.
Okay. Okay, so this is good. It was a last one was a long session on Apple pruning and pruning and training. It's never as good as doing this in person, but however, we can reach a whole lot more people by doing this through a webinar. And now we're switching gears to peach tree pruning and the training. And again, myself, Gary Gall, I'm a professor and also a small fruit specialist and with OSU South Centers. And before this, and I was an extension educator in Delaware County for 4 years and quite a few years in Clermont County, just outside of Cincinnati. So did a lot of interesting things. Ryan, do you want to say a couple words about yourself?
Yep. Well, welcome if you're just now joining us. If you're not, you're going to get a little repeat. But I'm Ryan Slaughter. I'm the extension educator here for Ross County down in Southern Ohio. Previously, I worked for Gary at OSU South Centers at the research plots for the small fruit program, and I took care of all that stuff. I was there for 10 years. So good chunk of my adult life, and I had a great time working down there. But Ross County is my home county, so this job's a little bit closer to my house. Matter of fact, it's only about a half mile from my house, so my commute is much nicer. So that's appreciative.
Yeah, that's really good. You could just walk to work.
Yeah,
Maybe a dangerous walk, but you can walk to work.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, get run over by people, uh, cars, and yeah, it's just and for people who are wondering, the kind of our Huey, Dewey, Louie show, and Ryan looks so familiar because we used to do this a lot since the COVID time.
My
Uh,
favorite, my favorite workshop is a pruning workshop.
yeah, we did this in person and did this online and so it's been a lot of fun. Bradford, do you have any housekeeping things for anybody?
Not just reminding people about the Q&A at the bottom if you have any questions to submit. We had someone earlier say they couldn't find the Q&A button. It may be hidden under the more in case, like if you're on maybe a smaller screen or something and there's not room for it down there. So if you don't see the Q&A, check for it under the more. Other than that, if you have to hop out for any reason, if real life calls or whatever, you could always come back in later using that link that you used to join us live. And that same link, you can use it later to watch this on demand. So the recording, just give it a couple of hours after we finish, and then it'll switch over to the full recording of what we went over today, in case you want to review anything.
And you can again the same promo. You can always or you can still share the registration link, not the one that you got for watching this, but for the for registering this program to get this link, you can still share that with your friends, so we can push for either 600 or 1,000. I guess our record was 700 some 703 last year. So this is but we're still very happy that this many these many people, 180 some participating now. This year might be a tough year for apple tree, for peach trees. Before too long, I'll get all the words and all jumbled. So this year will be a tough year. Could be a tough year for peach trees. We had several polar vortexes during late December, early January, and depending on the varieties that you have, and some are some are more cold hardy than others, and so so growers and grow peaches, and they are probably the most optimistic people that I know, because peaches are really hard to. Well, peaches can be zapped by spring frosts. Flowers could be zapped, and then you have no crop. And then if you have really extreme cold winter temperatures in December and January, and even February, flower buds can be damaged before they open, and sometimes shoots could be damaged. So yeah, I certainly feel for peach growers. So if you grow peaches in your home landscape, and then hopefully you have a more protected location, and so you might want to go out and slice, collect some flower buds, or collect the shoots with flower buds, and get a razor blade and to cut them open and see if the inside, see if the flowers are still viable, and that's one way to check for the flower bud damage or survival. Another way is some people would just bring a couple branches inside the home, and then put them in a vase with water, and then just force the flowers, and that's another way to check for flower bud viability. So this could be a tough year based on the low temperatures that we got a while back. So, but people grow peaches, and farmers grow peaches, so we can all enjoy tree ripe peaches, and they're so heavenly. And what we get in grocery stores, and I think they're just fake, fake peaches, because they're picked so early, and they do not have the have the wonderful full taste that peaches and nectarines are supposed to have. So grow your own. It's always a good idea. It's always a good thing, because there's nothing that can beat tree ripe peaches. Anyways, my buddy Brian Halter texted me several pictures, and he was joking with me, and he said, "Here are the pictures of you pruning peach trees." And to you can he said, you can show these pictures to Ryan that you actually do prune peach trees. So I texted Brian back and told him, well, this is one of the rare occurrences that pencil pushers started pruning peach trees, and I actually enjoy taking pictures more so than pruning peach trees. But pruning to just one or two small trees, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. But if you have like 50,000 peach trees, boy, that's a lot of work. That could be a lot of work, and especially on a cold day. During my younger years, I used to prune lots and lots of grapevines, and then the cold weather did not seem to bother me. Either did not bother me, or my memory got really bad and I forgot how cold it was. But anyways, I used to remember that it was fun to prune grapevines. Maybe it's not as much fun as I had imagined. Maybe I just forgotten, had just forgotten all the cold days. So, so with peach trees, and just remember, we're not doing the central leader system. We are not doing the central leader system. Open center or open vase or vase system. It's like a big salad bowl. A big salad bowl. It's because peach trees are the most sun-loving trees there are. Just they need lots and lots of sunlight, and so if you have shading, and then the peach branches will be weak, and then the flower buds will be of poor quality. If they've developed any flower buds at all, those are really bad, poor quality wood, and poor production of the flower buds. So this is what you see when we talk about the open center system. So open center looks like this, and so you have a tree trunk, and uh, and depending on how tall you are, for an average person, and where you have this kind of a spread, it's about knee high. Knee high, unless you are like Shaq and Shaquille O'Neal, or like a or seven footer, and this might be. But for most people, it's this when you buy a tree, buy a small tree, the first cut you make is about knee high, and then you make a with a young tree you make a cut. That's how you get these three scaffold limbs. It's kind of counterintuitive, like, oh my God, you bought this tree, and instantly you whack off 2/3 of that nice tree. But if you purchase purchase one apple tree from a local garden center, and if they didn't do their job, oftentimes they do not, or they didn't, so you can still whack off quite a bit, and then you uh, because you don't need that central leader. But if you were to grow peach trees in a central leader form, it will still produce fruits, but it's definitely not as good as the open center system. And then and then peach growers are getting more and more sophisticated, and so open center is still the most common training form. But there are people who try different ways, and they kind of try the Y method, kind of more high density planting. But central open center is still the way to go for most people. And this is what peach trees look like in winter, kind of on a snowy day. And this picture was taken in Circleville, I believe it was Circleville, Ohio, and just a few peach trees like this, and so still kind of open center, and this is one season of growth, and just tremendous amount of growth. So lots of, yeah, this might be this picture might look great, but it might be you may have too many fruits here. So when you with peach tree growing, and you are removing a lot of fruits, removing a lot of shoots with flower buds. A lot of flower buds are removed to reduce competition. So you're always hoping for mild weather during bloom, so the fruits will set. And so if you have too many fruits, and many gardeners have experienced this, and so when you have too many fruits, and then uh, the fruit load, excessive fruit load, will just break the branches, and so you can disfigure the tree very, very badly. So just limit the fruits, and so you will produce some fruits, but they will be of a good quality, high quality, and also you can also avoid limb breakage. So when you do the pruning, and make sure you leave when you cut large branches off, and you can leave a collar, and so the tree will will heal like this, and not like this, and because this will this area the tree will rot. If you leave too big of a stub, and the branches will rot, and if you don't cut them in the right fashion, and these stubs will cause the trees to rot, and the tree branches to rot, and then you have a dead area. And again, nice nice pruning tools are always good to have, and remember, if you do a lot of pruning, you need sharp tools, and you also need need the ones that are of light weight. And I have one of those, and they're made of steel steel, and really very, very sturdy, that can last forever. That's the good news. The bad news is that these are really heavy, very heavy, and so you can cause a lot of arm and shoulder problems with this. So the wooden bars are much nicer and much lighter weight. And then the shorter, a lot of times the growers will carry both, and they carry a lopper, they also carry a pruner, and they also carry a little pruning saw. So peach trees, and you still do the heading back cut. You also do the thinning out cut. Okay, this is a peach tree, and so so you have a pretty nice open open center. You have 1, 2, 3 major scaffold limbs. With peach tree pruning, depending on which growers you are talking to, a lot of growers will tell you that they will say, well, I like to prune my branches quite a bit, and so the branches will be nice and low. So the goal is to reach every single fruit without using a ladder. And sometimes you have to use a ladder, but to keep in mind that you are kind of trying to keep your fruiting surface and closer to the ground, so you could just reach the fruits by hand without getting on the ladder. So that's kind of the ultimate goal. And you also keep it wide open, so the sunlight will come down, and so the leaves will leaves are well exposed to sunlight, making a lot of carbohydrates, and the carbohydrates will turn into sugar, and to pump up those nice juicy peaches. So when you purchase purchase young trees, and the first thing you do is you make a cut somewhere about 15 inches or so, 15 inches or so above ground. And if you purchase purchase while this part of the bare area, it's about 15 inches, but you make a cut where it's about 30 inches. So anything below 15 inches, and it has to be bare and without any branches, and then be above that you will have 1, 2, 3. So three scaffold limbs. And so this is depending on depending on what what type of fruit trees, or the forms, whether you are getting getting a tree with a bunch of feathers and branches, or you are getting getting a larger tree. But the whole idea is to prune where you have about three scaffold limbs. So 1, 2, 3, and then if you have 4, yeah, that's really not end of the world. But the 3 is more typical. So you make a cut, right in the center to remove the dominant central leader. So this is this tree, and this is after you yank out the central leader. It looks really nice, and so this gentleman is here to prune apple trees, and so the central leader, the one in the center, got removed. And then let's see. So that during the first growing season, you removed the central leader, and so everything will start growing sideways, and also if they go straight, and you would remove the vertical ones, and remove where you have a side branch. So during the second dormant season, February, March or so, and then you start removing diseased, broken, and low hanging limbs, and then you keep that central leader, not the central leader, open center system, open center vase shaped tree, and then you remove vigorous upright shoots. So again, vertical shoots, you remove them. So they will not compete. They will not be, because the vigorous ones, the fruit quality will be very, very low. And also, if you have branches that grow toward the center of the tree, you remove those, because you do not want any kind of competition toward the center. See, like this, and growing toward the center, and these low branches are removed, and also the low branches get removed too, because they're not going to do anything. So this is what so center of the tree you remove, and then low branches on the back of the scaffold limbs, and you remove them, because even though they will produce fruits, but the fruit quality will be very, very poor. So this is what the tree looks like after you prune them during the second growing season. And so by looking after you properly prune a tree, see, this is kind of what the when if you purchase a tree, kind of a fully grown, almost get a larger tree from a nursery. So you whack this thing off, and so you save this branch. Okay, this branch and this branch. So you remove, and then what you are trying to do is by looking at the tree from kind of a bird's eye view. So you want these branches to spread out evenly in 3 different directions. So you because your peach tree, it's like I guess almost like a solar panel, kind of a vase-shaped solar panel. You are just trying to intercept sunlight as much as possible. So you were talking about the highest possible efficiency when it's a salable kind of open center, or a big vase-shaped tree. See, this is what this tree looks like from one side. You still have three limbs, and so when you have a tree have branches that grow toward the center of the tree, you remove those, and the ones that are growing downward, and you remove them. And these in the center, you remove them. So, and this guy also grows depending on how you look at this. With this, and if it's grow horizontally, you would keep, but if it's straight toward the center, you would remove. And peach trees, and they grow a lot after you prune them quite a bit, and they still come back with lots and lots of growth. And so if you buy a container grown tree, and then they already did some training for you, but they still have seen the apple trees in nurseries, and they look like they had central leaders. I don't know whether it's because that's what what the nurseries wanted them to look like, so they would not look like they would not look weird. And so, but the first thing you do is you would yank out the main stem in the center, and then you remove these little side branches, and then you end up with this 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 3 scaffold limbs. And so on the branches, and you would leave 6 to 7 buds, and so the height of tree, and depending on the what your tree looks like coming from the nursery. So you only need to keep 3 or 4 main scaffold limbs. Okay, so they look like this, and 1, 2, 3, and then during the third, fourth growing season, and third or fourth growing season, they look like this. So what you do is during the third or fourth growing season, depending on how tall this is, and so the way to reduce the height is when you make a pruning cut. You, for example, in this case, if you think this is too tall and you wanted to reduce the height, you can make a cut like right here. Cut this thing off, and then you have a side growing branch. And well, some growers will do a little bit summer pinching, and if they have time and labor to do this. And so you home gardeners, you could do this as well if you can remember this. Okay, just keep on going. And so this is one way to reduce the growing height. And then see, this is kind of vertical, growing toward the center. You can cut this off, and then here you could reduce the height by cutting this off to a side growing well, to a side pointing direction. And so with peach trees, the good a lot of the good fruiting wood, I'm looking for, I would say, a pencil size, fruiting wood, and they are the best kind. And so the pencil around pencil size. I don't know whether this you can see this, and this is not a pencil. I'm looking for a pencil in my home office. But anyway, everybody knows what a pencil size looks like. So just keep when in doubt, and remove the weaker ones. And if it's too kind of spindly, you remove the weak ones. And if the shoots are too big and they're not as good, so the well balanced pencil size fruits will be better. And I already mentioned how to where to make the cut. So, so pruning peach trees, there are several objectives. So first one is develop a good structure and strong scaffold limbs that will be very productive, and also control the tree height, and so allowing for easier harvest. So that's what I mentioned. Kind of being able to reach all fruits while standing on the ground. So, and that's why the peach trees are pruned pretty hard, and then the branches are relatively, they're kind of all within reach, and then maintain a good supply of limbs that are of optimal fruit bearing age. And so the older shoots will produce fruits, but the quality will not be as good. So you kind of you always kind of like the nice reddish bunch of reddish colored stems on the fruits that are more growing in the side, side growing sideways. And also placement, you kind of want these nice looking red colored pencil size fruiting wood kind of distributed all over the tree. And then you remove any damaged or diseased branches, and that's always given for all fruit tree growing. Maybe we'll take a short kind of pause, and let's see, Ryan, are there a lot of burning questions where you are?
Well, I just closed down the last one. Not as many questions in this group as with the apples. And not a lot of repeats either, except for pest problems, deer and raccoon. Other than that, it's kind of one-off questions, so.
Okay.
A lot of
Yeah.
questions about Japanese beetle. That's pretty easy when 7 or any chemical with carbaryl in it. It's really effective with Japanese beetle.
Brian, see, Gary does work pushing pencils. Okay, so Japanese beetle, and so our standing joke is you buy Japanese beetle traps and you give them to your neighbors, and the beetle traps will draw Japanese beetles away from your trees or fruit crops. But if you were to use the Japanese beetle traps, and you would place them as far away from the fruit trees as possible. So that's one good way, and then the insecticides could be applied in early when you see a few, and you get them. Hopefully, you will have fewer beetles, but they're a lot of work. They can be pretty rough. Okay, here we go. So when you have so prune to increase the branch angle. So when you have things that are branch angle, you kind of want to have them nice and wide. So the peach, with this, and they would just kind of break off, and that would be a sad day. But so that's the bad news. The good news is you with peach trees, you do a lot of a lot of renewal. So before too long, that you can prune off your mistakes. See, these are I see a lot of these are the kind of almost pencil size, nice wood for fruit production. So something like this might be so the branches here. So I love seeing a lot of these really nice red colored branches. So pruning, and this came from Dr. John Strand with University of Kentucky, and he worked there for many years, and he retired a few years back. So to improve flower bud initiation, also improve fruit color, and also good for pest control. So we already mentioned Japanese beetles. And one disease, boy, I saw a lot of it last year. It was peach leaf curl. So now could be a good time to, maybe after you prune the trees and then make a fungicide spray, and that will before the leaves start emerging, and that's a great way to control control peach leaf curl, which is a fungal disease. Peach leaf curl is one of the very rare fungal diseases where you can make one fungicide spray, and then you can control it very well. And then OSU Extension has a bulletin. It's called Bulletin 780, Controlling Diseases and Insects in Home Fruit Plantings, and you can get a copy from your local extension office. Okay, so for fruit color, flower bud initiation, flowering, and so remove the dead wood. And so these are from apple trees, and see, these are a lot of times they produce too many flowers, and then they also produce too many branches. So dormant season, and so you can prune, and we joke about pruning, start pruning in December, but from February to bloom. Sometimes some growers, if they do not have too many trees, they will even wait until they bloom so they can see how many flowers that they do have. But you could potentially knock off some fruits, some flowers. See with peaches, and they are just so neat. You can they produce a lot of flowers. When you look at this, boy, if every single one of them if every single one of them turns into a peach, that could be that may sound like good news, but that could be bad news for the tree, because that would be way too many. So here, when you look at the shoot, that's kind of a pencil size. So these are the flower buds. The big plump ones on the side, they are the flower buds, and then in between, you have a vegetative or leaf bud. So when you have two, you definitely do not want both of them to produce fruits. And then when you see this, you go like, oh boy, that's a lot of flower buds. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, 6, 7, 8. You have quite a few, and so they tend to produce a lot of flowers, and so you don't want to have all of them to produce fruits. And so the flower buds just keep on going. So when you look at a peach tree, a peach tree can grow pretty fast, and here I have a couple of diagrams from University of Georgia. We all kind of when we think about Georgia, and Georgia has a nickname of Peach State, but actually South Carolina produces more peaches than Georgia. And then California, we all know about California. It's kind of number one in just about every single agricultural category there is. But anyways, so you make a lot of, when you make cuts, you go like, okay, well, this tree has a lot of branches, so you have 1, 2, 3 scaffold limbs. So you come here and see these are the, so you remove quite a bit the branches growing on the back of the scaffold limbs. You remove them, and then vertical ones. In this case, looks like they kept this vertical, and depending on how the diagram was drawn, I would have probably removed this because it's too vertical. And then you have this, and you back up the tree, and so you have this branch that's still pretty vertical. I might I might well, this one grows toward the center of the tree, and I might prune this guy off, and then I probably wouldn't leave this many vertical ones, and I might just either make a cut here or cut here to force the tree to grow sideways. And keep in mind that there is no right or wrong way, uh, right wrong way. The whole idea is to keep them grow kind of more like sideways, and also to reduce the competition. How about Ryan? Do you want to say anything while I get a drink of water?
Sure. I guess just to back up a little bit, peach leaf curl has come up a lot in the questions. Gary mentioned that bulletin, but also there's some other good articles written by some folks at OSU just talking about peach leaf curl, the kind of the growth habit and why and where it comes from. So if you just do an internet search for peach leaf curl OSU, there's quite a few good articles out there, and then there's some spray recommendations, how to deal with that and when to apply it. So that's come up quite a bit in the Q&A.
Last year was a horrendous year for peach leaf curl, and so yeah, just one fungicide spray would likely take care of it. So pretty, relatively easier, easier disease to control. And then another one that's a disease that's very common. It's called brown rot. And boy, that brown rot could be a major pain to control. You have to spray quite fungicides quite a few times. So brown rot is much more difficult to control. And before I forget, and peach trees, they don't last forever either. And typical lifespan is about 15 to 20 years, 15 to 20 years. So if your tree is kind of struggling, and when it gets to like 15 years old or so, and it might be time to think about basal pruning. And after 20 years, and I would say definitely yes, to remove it. And so peach trees can get two insects, two borers, and one is a peach tree borer, other one is a lesser peach tree borer. A peach tree borer will bore into the base of the tree trunk and drill holes and kill trees. And then the lesser peach tree borer will bore into scaffold limbs and then kill the larger limbs. So we used to have, there used to be insecticides that could be sprayed to the tree trunk and branches and to kill these borers. But nowadays, the insecticides are not that strong, so you kind of have to spray multiple times. So when you look at this tree, and it looks like a pretty big mess, and when I do pruning, pruning clinic in person, and we can always do this by committee. So what they do is they remove a lot of lower limbs on the scaffold on the scaffold limbs. So see, this is they still left a few. I would have removed all of those, and then let the side ones to grow. And so the ones in the center, I would have removed those as well. So you still have a lot of branches, and they are still too tall, and so this one is okay growing sideways, and so this one might be too tall. I might just like make a cut here, and then you have a side branch, and this branch you have a few, and then this might be too strong of a competitor, and I might just cut it back, and then here I might make a kind of a stub cut to 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 where you have a lateral branch growing. So to me, this tree still looks kind of vigorous, but maybe in Georgia, this is kind of how they properly do this. So this still looks like a tree that's too vigorous to me. And so this is what they look like during the winter month, and lots of branches, and this is what they look like. See these water sprouts, and they are too vigorous. I would definitely remove those. And then after you prune, yeah, with these trees, one of the drawbacks is the tree limbs are still too tall, but that's from kind of years of pruning. And then a tree like this may be about 12 to 15 years old, and if not older. So you might be looking at this and like, okay, how do I force more shoots to grow, where they are more easily reachable. So mature peach trees, and when we look at this, and so this is how they make a lot of cuts, but they still have quite a few vertical shoots, and I might still remove this. And let's see. So these two are kind of competing pretty hard. Uh, if I were to do this in person, I may, I may just remove this one completely, let this guy grow, and so you have a more of a horizontal, more of a side growing fashion. And so pruning, these are the pruning techniques. Pruning techniques. See this is what if you. Oh, okay. I do have a couple of cherry. Forgot I have some cherry pruning slides. So when you have a tree like this, and then you are saving 1, 2, 3, 4, and then you have your kind of a central leader. So this is what the tree looks like. And then the cherries, and they could be overloaded. They could be loaded with a lot of flowers. And Ryan used to stack on our cherry trees. And since then, the cherry trees got got diseased, and also cherry, well, the borers and all that. Uh, yeah, you were there, right? When we were you there when we removed these? Oh, I think you were the ones who removed the cherry trees, and they were just not looking very good. And,
Yeah.
we well, when I say we, it's Ryan. We planted some Asian pear trees. Let's maybe look at some while with tart cherries, and it gets to be a huge tree, so you do remove a lot of do a lot of thinning cuts, and to reduce competition. Um, so I've kind of forgot that I have several slides on plum trees, and so plum trees, you kind of turn them into more like a kind of a modified modified central leader. You have multiple leaders. So you have quite a few. You spread them out, and they have these fat flower buds everywhere. Let's see. So what are the questions that you have in the chat?
One question that somebody just talking a little bit more about removing excess buds on the peach trees
Uh-huh.
and just how that can be done.
Okay. So that's a very good question. So when you let me see if I can go back to some of the slides. Okay. Yeah, I need to yeah, I need to catch more pictures of better yeah, better pictures. Let's see. I'm looking for the one. See, this is a well pruned peach tree. So when it looks like this, and I always teach people that's plenty good for government work. Uh, so it's probably good for a commercial private work too. Uh, so where did I looking for the slide that has big fat flower buds. Here we go. Okay. So when we do when we say reducing the number of the flower buds, and when you look at this, and so depending on the diameter, if it's a pencil size, uh, uh, and if I go like, okay, well that shoot is kind of weak, and there's no way it will be able to support that many fruits, and so I might just come here, okay, instead of letting these two flower buds turn into flowers and fruits, I would just come here and then make a cut like right here. Yeah, you cut this off, so you remove the flowers above it, and you let these guys produce fruits, and you are just kind of shortening. So if you have a, a longer shoots, you would just shorten it maybe by about 1/3. You are strengthening that particular fruit producing shoots, and then you also reduce the leaf surf number of the leaves, number of the competing flowers. So that's how you shorten them. Again, with peach, peach pruning. So any kind of vertical shoots and that are really big in diameter, those will drain a lot of nutrients, and so you cut them off at the base. So the first thing you do is you cut all those vertical shoots, and you cut them all at the base, and then I would cut the branches, that are growing maybe like this, and kind of growing underneath, and kind of all droopy. I would cut those off, and then if the shoots are too skinny, I would cut them off, and then if they are uh, if they uh, if they look like they have too many flower buds, and I would just shorten them. And also after you are done, you kind of look at the entire picture of the fruit distribution, uh, assuming that you will get a good pollination, good fruit set, and and then you space them out. Okay, you have one peach here, and then every 7 inches or so you have another peach, so you kind of space them out. But with peaches, and they are just so our weather conditions are just so unpredictable, and even when the fruits are set, you have little peachlets, and then there's no guarantee that these fruits will turn into a full-grown fruit, because uh, frost will zap the flowers, and then the peach pit will not develop fully, and then all these little peachlets might fall off. So that's a very good question. What other questions do we have?
We can just answer this one live. The question is about combining oil and copper sulfate for apple and peach. I don't want to answer that question because with any pesticides, insecticides, fungicides, I just would return to the label. Read it front to back. I know most of these labels are super long, but they're going to have very specific things in there of what you can mix, how you mix it, the right order you can mix them in. And then also we'll have in there what not to put it on. Okay, it might be that you can use this product on peaches, but you shouldn't use it on apples, or vice versa. So with any kind of question like that, my answer is read the label, because that's going to give you all your answers. And then
Okay,
the last one, recommended ground cover for the base of the trees.
Yeah, the base of the tree typically it's a clean cultivation, so we don't really want any between commercial orchards and between rows is sod, but within rows is just clean cultivation.
And I
Yeah.
think you can kind of see that in that picture there, that peach tree. It's not completely dead yet, but it does look like they've made a herbicide application to the sod growing underneath the trees. Where it's starting to turn a little yellow compared to between the rows is pretty nice and green.
Yeah, one question was about the PowerPoint presentation, and I got quite a few requests from our last one on just fruit production series, and I have been very busy. Well, one of the big things that we have to do typically is to keep applying for grants to keep our projects going, and one proposal was due, so it was a mad dash, and for about a week for about a week, just busy with that. And so so after I get a little breather, and I will turn these presentations into PowerPoint handout, and then email to folks who have requested. And so, yeah, sorry for the delay, but man, it's just too many things going on. Too many things going on. It's yeah, well, it's a lot of work to apply for these grants, and there's no guarantee and we will get any of it, because it's just very strong competition. So I consider myself lucky to have received a few, but it's very difficult to get grants. So okay, so what I'll do is maybe I'll work with Bradford, and maybe we could put it on a kind of a secret website for people who registered for this program. Maybe that would be maybe Bradford and I can talk about how to what's the most efficient way to put the handouts online or email.
I
And,
do. Well, I do like the idea of having like a central place where people can just go on our website and download them.
yeah,
That's a lot easier to do with something like our next event coming up, the High Tunnel School, because people, have to go to our website and then go to Qualtrics and register. But an event like this is conducted entirely through Carmen Zoom, since it's all online. So it's a little bit more difficult since I don't actually create a website for this particular event. But we could probably make something on the website and host all those. Might be a good idea.
Okay, let's talk about this, because with our Outlook email, it's just so hard to, we get sometimes 50 to 100 emails a day, and it's uh, very hard to search for people who, well, just a lot of spam emails too, and yeah, so maybe Bradford and I can talk about this. Let me see what else we have in the chat. In the chat, so looks like handouts are very popular. Great information, well organized. Yeah, we're trying hard to get better organized because with both apples and peaches, and especially because this is not what we do on the regular basis. We're just kind of providing a service to folks. So we're probably better. I'm much better organized with the fruits that we deal with every day. So based on what I have now, maybe I'll visit my buddy Brian Houtzer and maybe take more pictures, pictures of the peach trees, and then you can also find Brian on TikTok, TikTok and Instagram and all that. And Brian emailed me a picture, a video of him pruning peach trees, and Brian is a big celebrity online, a TikTok star.
Yeah, if you like old rock, you'll like his TikTok videos.
Yeah, so this is good. There's a spot extension Ohio line said that could like host us. Yeah, that might be. I think we might just host it at the South Center's website and somewhere. Okay, Dina, I have been taking pictures of the slides, but would love it as a print handout. Okay, all right. So it looks like the
You know what I could do, Gary, is
yeah.
we usually do a follow-up email, kind of like everybody got an email to, hey, it's time to join. I
Yeah,
usually schedule a follow-up, and if you could get me those slides like within the next day or so, I could upload them and then include that link in the follow-up email, and that way everybody can get them.
yeah. So me, yeah. So I can turn them into handouts, because not all pictures are, probably credited to the source, and so I'll turn them into more of a handout than. So yeah, yeah. Let's talk about this. So right now it's 11:48, and we're gonna stop the recording now, and then maybe Bradford and. All right. Well, it's a quarter after 1 o'clock, and let's go ahead and get our afternoon session started. And let's see. With this particular session, I think I got way too carried away with all the number of the fruits that we're going to try to fit fit in one shot. But we're gonna we're gonna try try to make it happen, and it's there's gonna be a lot of information, and there are also some fruits that I did get questions on, and sometimes it might be kind of hard because we don't really know what kind of varieties and that you may have, and which which types. So sometimes pruning methods could be kind of variety dependent as well. So we'll definitely try to do the best we can and try to help you out. Well, for those of you I think all of you are repeat customers, and but for the purpose of recording, so we're just going to do another quick intro. My name is Gary Gall. I'm a professor and also a small fruit specialist and with OSU South Centers. And today it's our Huey, Dewey, Louie show. so Ryan, maybe you could give a short intro of yourself.
Yep. Thanks, Gary. So I'm Ryan Slaughter. I'm the Ross County Extension Educator. Only been in this position for a little over a year. Previous to that, I worked for Gary at OSU South Centers down in Piketon, Ohio, and I took care of all of the small fruit research plots there. So I did that for a number of years, really enjoyed it, but Ross County is my home and a little bit closer to the office is where I live. So a lot shorter commute, and I just, like I said, I moved up here last year for this position, but always glad to do a workshop with Gary. They're always a lot of fun, and I especially like the pruning workshop. So thanks.
All right, thanks, Ryan. How about Bradford?
Yeah, Bradford Sherman. I'm a program assistant here at South Centers, working with Gary and, of course, formerly Ryan, but still collaborate with Ryan quite a bit as well. I guess my job is to get you all here. So if you're here, I did that job, I suppose. And then kind of do some crude technical support too. If anybody has any problems today, try to walk them through fixing it. So couple housekeeping items. The recording of today will be available a few hours after we finish, and you can access that on-demand recording by using the same link that you used to join live today. After a couple of hours, it switches over to the recording. And then I'm also working on getting those slides up that Gary used this morning, and then what he'll be using this afternoon onto a website, and be looking for a follow-up email with a link to download those. So I think that's all.
Hey, thanks a lot, Bradford. And I did get one email request from Kathy, and so I shared that folder, and so hopefully you can access it. If not, wait for an email from Bradford, and hopefully everything will be loaded on the website. And that's kind of what I did right after my lunch, and so turned them into PowerPoint handouts, and so hopefully people will be able to use them and all that. So today's this afternoon session, so we're gonna kind of fly through a few fruit crops, and these are the ones that we have kind of worked on quite a bit during at OSU South Centers. So we'll go through that, and so we're kind of just go over this alphabetically, and so first one is aronia, or some people will call that aronia berry. Aronia berry, but keep in mind, if you actually look at them closely, they have a fruit stem, and on the back side, they almost look like miniature apples, and or very very tiny little apples, and so they're actually in the palm fruit group. So they are more related to apples than or palm fruits than the berries. And so aronia is definitely not a true berry, even though we call them aronia berries. And so aronia malinocarpa, so black chokeberry, and but it's really not a berry. So some of you may like the aronia fruits, and because they have a lot of antioxidants, and then the plants themselves are very very interesting. I love the white flowers, and it provides a really good. It's a good can be a pretty good hedge, and also could be grown as a specimen plant, and because of the white flowers. So just really like them, and their fruits have, as you can tell, they're quite dark and almost black, kind of dark black. So they have a lot of antioxidants, and then depending on which person you talk to, aronia, may not be that much fun to consume as a fresh fruit. But maybe Ryan is a little bit different. Do you want to tell them what you think about aronia fruits?
Well, I will say that they're not my favorite fruit to consume raw, but or fresh. But I think that if anybody's ever grown these, the longer that you let them sit on the plant, the more the sugars concentrate in the fruit to a point where the fruit starts to look a little dehydrated on the plant. And although it is still fairly astringent when you do eat it by itself, it does kind of a sweet flavor to it. So I don't know if you can get past that astringent kind of texture when you're eating it. I I'm I have consumed many of them just fresh, so I think they're okay. But and the birds love them too, so they're not all that bad.
Yeah, there you go. So that we always say that, well, when I talked to many years ago, before we started working on aronias, I thought black chokeberry, because they choke birds, and I even told Ryan there's no way that birds will eat them. Don't worry about netting, until birds like them. So the chokeberries are not consumed by birds until they are fully ripe, and then birds like them quite a bit. So anyway, so the chokeberry not being edible by birds, and that's not true. uh, we kind of, I kind of learned the hard way, but they make really good jam or jelly. And so my coworker Dr. Rafiq Islam made them, and one is just a aronia berry, other one he mixed with some of the raspberries from our research plots, and both of them are really tasty. So if you grow them, and then turning them into jam or jelly would be the best way to go. And otherwise, you can enjoy their flower, beautiful flowers. And some people will turn them into baked goods, and so they could be kind of neat to consume. But anyways, and just wanted to get your appetite going, and so they're a fun group of crops to grow. So Aronia melanocarpa, Ohio, well, state of Ohio, we're not really that big into Aronia production, but the state Iowa got into Aronia production big time, and I believe there are about maybe 1,200 or so acres, and lots and lots of Aronia. As a matter of fact, that might be too much Aronia production. And there's also a Midwest Aronia Growers Association. They're that serious about Aronia production. So the Aronia bushes, and from distance, and they kind of almost look like blueberry bushes. So they're not that tall, maybe 4 to 6 feet tall, and not really that huge. Uh, so Ryan and I, we created a fact sheet on aronia production in Ohio. So if you just Google Ohio line, aronia, aronia growing or production, hopefully you will find our aronia fact sheet. And so this is a mature aronia bush, and with bunch of ripening fruits. So they are so some farmers grow them and also sell them, and so it's definitely a niche crop versus things like blueberries and raspberries. But some people have found, some growers have found success in growing and marketing them. And then for home gardeners, you could just grow a few bushes, a few of them, and enjoy the flowers. And then if you know how to turn them into uh, into into muffins or cakes, and into baked goods, and then, like all things, if you add enough sugar, and they will eventually taste really good. And with aronia, one thing that you kind of have to watch out for is there's a little insect that really likes them quite a bit, and so we after our project was over, and we planted our or transplanted our aronia bushes into our front landscape. Initially, they looked fantastic, and then after a year or so, and we started noticing this, the upper side of the leaves kind of turn yellow, light yellow, eventually white, and looks like the pigment is all gone. If you flip the leaves over, and you will see with the infected or infested leaves, you will see this. These are little lace bugs, and they look quite interesting, but actually pretty neat looking insects. So that's about as far as we like them, and because they will feed on the underside of the leaves, and they will suck out all the chlorophyll liquid out of the leaves, and then turning them into this. And then when the infestation is severe, and leaves will kind of lose color, and pretty much 90% of the leaves will look as awful like this, and then that will definitely weaken the bushes, and reduce the fruit production, and also fruit quality. We with aronia pruning and all that, we don't really have too many pictures, because it's such a minor crop. But I took some this year, just to kind of show you uh, show you show you how to prune them. Since, as you can tell, it's a very vigorous and multi-stamped bush, and so you so several goals. First one is you wanted to keep, uh, in this case, we actually love vertical shoots. Vertical shoots are our friends. So you wanted to keep the vertical shoots, and because they produce flower buds on the terminal flowers. So you have a lot of vertical shoots, well spaced out, and uh, and then when that happens, you will have a lot of flowers kind of scattered all over the bush. So what? And they also, aronia bushes also sucker freely, like what you are seeing now. So when I look at this, and uh, what I would do is I would remove the oldest stem. So I would a lot of times, this particular shrub was actually pruned pretty heavily a couple of years ago, so we don't have too many old branches. So if you have a lot of branches that are really big in diameter, and also that have lichens on them, and that means they have been around for quite some time, and they are getting too old. So in this case, most of the shoots actually look pretty decent. So what I would do is, probably the rule of thumb is, you can remove about 30% of the stems from the shrub, without really hurting anything. So these short kind of weak branches, I would just, really short, weak branches, I would remove them like this. And then medium-sized fruit stems like this. And I would look at them like, okay, how many of them do I want to save? You could probably, this looks like we have maybe about 25 to 30 of them. I might save about 15 to 20. So just space them out. And I typically would remove several branches in the middle, so you can open up the canopy. So open up the bush, and so the light will will be able to penetrate through the canopy. So I would remove 2 or 3 in the middle, and then if it's too far too far out, and I might remove it too. So I tend to save a lot of the vertical ones. So the weak and short ones I would remove. If you have a lot of tiny little stems, tiny little stems in the middle, and the ones that are really short, and they're not going to amount to anything, and then that's a pretty good way to thin out the weak ones, remove the very old branches, and then remove the ones that are getting out of the crown area, getting into while starting invading other bushes. So that's what I would do. Are you getting any questions about aronia pruning?
Nope, none so far.
Okay, okay. So we so with aronia, if 1 year you decided, okay, I don't care about the fruit production for the next year, so you could even just do a complete renovation. You could remove all of the canes, and then start all over with a bunch of new shoots, and that's okay too. But you will sacrifice flowers, and then sacrifice fruiting. So, but aronias bushes are really tough. I mean, you could just even close your eyes, and then go to town with it with pruning. It's still not too bad. Oh, okay. Oh, this is fantastic. Harvest them for ice wine. Oh, that's interesting. Mix one with blueberries in muffins and cake. Oh, love that. Oh, that's really neat. Uh, that's good to know. So yeah, 1, 2, 3 canes, 2 in the middle. Remove 3 older ones, and remove weak and diseased canes, and then so 30 to 50% cane removal is probably a good good guideline for aronia bushes. So not terribly difficult, and so we're gonna, unless we have questions, then we're gonna move on to the next fruit crop. Yeah, next fruit crop. Yeah, next the fruit crop, just kind of alphabetically, currants. So for those of you who may not know, so both currants and gooseberries and jaspberries are completely legal to grow in Ohio now, and I guess uh, several years ago, Ohio Department of Agriculture and lifted their ban on the production or growing of well, they belong to the genus Ribes, Ribes, and while the many years ago. Many years ago, it was illegal to grow currants and gooseberries because of the disease white pine blister rust. And the federal ban was lifted many years ago, and then the state of Ohio still had restrictions, However, about 2 years ago or so, it was completely lifted. So all currants and gooseberries and jasterberries can be grown legally in Ohio now. And this year, Ryan and I, with several other folks, and we wrote and published 2 fact sheets on ribes, currants, and gooseberries and jasterberries, and one on growing and one on marketing. So if you have if you desire more information, you could Google gooseberries, currants, and jasterberries in Ohio. Hopefully that fact sheet will show up. So it with gooseberries and currants, and we have almost, well, kind of 2 camps. One group absolutely loves them. Other group goes, oh no, this is not. It's kind of hard to find somewhere in between. So black currants, and I guess it's can be turned into black currant juice, and it's supposed to be very high in vitamin C content, and it's quite uh, uh, okay. So the question was, what time of the year do you prune? It would be like now, so March. And black currants, and we did grow some black currants, and we also grew some white and red currants at our research center in Piketon, uh, and so the black currants were very productive for us, but the white and red currants did not did not yield very well for us. We really it was a project that I had inherited from uh, from Dr. Maurice Brown back in 2011, and I only caught the tail end of the project. So we quite a few varieties were planted, and so yield wise, if you were to grow currants, and I would say black currants would be much easier to grow than the red and the white currants. The red and white currants just did not produce very many fruits, a lot of fruits for us. And let's see. And for fact sheet development, we did a few things. One of our co-authors went out and bought some red currants and then baked a nice pie out of it. So, because we were not there to conduct quality control. So personally, I don't really know how good that pie tasted, but our co-author Presley Burma loved it, and so that's that. And another co-author of ours actually found some red currant jelly in Northeast Ohio. So that's really neat. And again, because I wasn't there, so did not could not do any quality control. Maybe you could do this in chat, like see how many of you have actually had currents and in current products, and how you like it, and what you do with them. Yeah, I'm just jotting down numbers. So currents. So this is a pretty pretty neat. So it's definitely definitely a minor. Oh, okay. Here we go. Smoothies. Yeah, that's always a good idea. Red. Okay, so red currants are great for fresh eating and also excellent for pies. So again, these are the great things that I missed. Yeah, when we had our red currants, and boy, I think we want to have like I think I only saw maybe 1 or 2 fruits. Half-grown red currants from my grandfather's 20 plus years, and jelly, and addition to pie. I prefer the red and white currants. Huh, that's really neat. Boy, that's good. Good. Oh, okay. So the partial shade would be newer varieties, not the older and impressive. Huh. Yeah, our project ended for a project on currants and gooseberries ended quite a few years back. So anyway, so this is neat to see that. So currants can grow pretty tall. Can grow pretty tall, and they do have really interesting flowers, and they bloom very early. Yeah, if I remember correctly, they bloomed maybe around March-ish, when the weather was really cold, and hardly any uh, yeah, hardly any. So this is good to know that Julie uh, grows red and black currants and the gooseberries, and that's fantastic to know that they do well in Licking County. Thank you. So the flowers are really interesting, and and then hardly any honeybees, but native pollinators somehow pollinate them. And yeah, I don't have very many pictures of our own. I was able to find a few pictures online, and they're kind of grainy and not necessarily that great. So here's a let's see if this is the same guy that I remembered. Uh, so So with black currant, in terms of pruning, you kind of want to keep the relatively the younger while they produce fruits on the last year's growth, and so but the last year's growth, if the stems have to be on these really old canes, they will still produce fruits, but the fruit quality will not be as high. So it's a kind of a constant renewal process. So you would select the canes that are relatively maybe select the canes that are 2 to 3 years old versus something that's like 4 to 5 years old. Again, when I look at this, I go like, okay, these 1, 2, 3, maybe yeah, these 3 are the candidates for removal, and these guys are relatively younger or newer. I would keep them. Um, I would keep them. So the really old canes, they will still produce fruits, but the fruit quality may not be as high. So this is good to know that black currants bloomed in April. Let's see, April. Very yeah, in Cuyahoga County, fruited early. Normally, uh, yeah, last year was quite a weird year. Everything kind of bloomed a couple weeks early, 2 to 3 weeks earlier than average. So this is what they look like. I will take out the older canes, and then the really weak ones that are short, I would remove them. And after I do that, and I still think if you still think the bush is kind of too thick, and you can remove a few more. So this is what one of the bushes look like. Okay, this particular one, and so the homeowner gardener kind of did the selective pruning. See, they took out one of the older canes and left the other one. And then here, instead of removing the whole thing, and they would just remove the crossing branches, removed one and kept removed one, or removed it where you have a side branch. Again, you kind of want the bushes to be more like vertical. Maybe that's to keep Ryan a little bit involved. Do you remember pruning any of them when you worked for us?
Well, since our project was done, by the time I come in with those, I think we only had those for a couple years after I started, and then we dug them up to make room for other stuff. So I don't really remember working on those too much. I think we kept some black currants around just to have, but that's all we had.
Yeah, yeah. So that was at the very beginning of my my tenure at Piketon. So see this person removed the stem in the center, and then removed another one, and this might still be too might still be too crowded. See, for example, this actually looks like a pretty nice shoot. So this one kind of started invading the other bush, and so I might just cut it off like this, right there. So just when you have too many shoots, and they will shade each other, and the fruit quality will not be as good. Uh, and so this is this particular picture, or a few pictures and afterwards came from this blogger, and she's just she's just your gardener, and she's got her little YouTube channel, or what, a website, and just Sarah the gardener, and so this is what her black currant looks like. So it's actually a very good picture when you look at this. And what I would do is, and I would probably look at the oldest canes. This one is old. This one is kind of old, big, thick ones. I might just take out 3 or 4 of them, and then let the younger ones grow. And yeah, she's like me and always preaches for good good good, nice, clean, sharp tools. So this is a pretty good size pretty good sized bush. And then she showed a couple of pictures of her removing several canes, several canes in the middle, and that's always a good idea to remove several in the center to open up the airflow and also sunlight penetration. So the ones that we had at Piketon, the ones that have not been pruned at all for quite about 4 or 5 years, and they still produce fruits, but definitely not as good as annual pruning of black currants. So this is what her black currant bushes look like. Yeah, I would say if you remove a couple more, these are the branches that were removed. But if you remove one or more, it probably wouldn't hurt the bush. So if you have any comments or 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 suggestions or recommendations on uh, uh, pruning black currants, you're welcome to enter them into our chat, and then maybe for others to share. So the English prune the black currants by removing the fruiting canes when they are ripe down to the lower side branch. Okay, so lower side branch. you can then remove remove the fruiting canes down to a side. So you can then remove the fruit inside. Okay, so that's you can then are not pruned this way. So their leaders and laterals are pruned according to my English sources. So we may need to, yeah, may need to plant some more to learn how to so I would still like to know how you prune that much. So the red currants, yeah, we didn't really have much red currants, so we may not know that know how to properly prune them that well. Okay, moving on to elderberries. Elderberries, we did do quite a bit of work, and Ryan and I we got pretty good, pretty good at growing elderberry plants. So we'll go into elderberries. Okay, so elderberries, and there are several kinds. Maybe since Ryan really loves elderberries, and do you want to talk about them a little bit? Do you still have questions in chat or Q&A?
There's just one asking about newer varieties of red and black currants.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's the if they wanted the cultivar information and our fact sheet on currants and gooseberries and the jostberries has some of those. Maybe you could talk about these and let me get a drink of water.
Sure. So the important thing to think about when growing elderberries is that there's really two main types that you're going to see out there, and a nursery will label whether they're American elderberries or European. Sometimes they'll be called black elderberry, or they'll be labeled as Sambucus nigra. So there is a big difference in the way that those two grow, or fruit. So American elderberries will fruit on 1-year-old canes. And that's kind of the nice thing about them, because it makes pruning very easy with the American version. In the dormant season right now, you can simply just go in and cut all the canes back to the ground, and then expect a crop on the new canes that come up in the growing season. So that's recommended. It's probably one of the easiest things to prune as far as fruit crops go, because you can just whack them all the way down to the ground every year, and then you'll have a crop on them. And another reason why it's recommended, one of the biggest pests for elderberries is a mite that lives in the bark of the plant. And when you're removing those canes every year, you're removing the old bark in which it would live. So that's kind of the nice thing about those American varieties. Yeah, that's a good picture of some of our planting. You can kind of see under the net behind the crowd there. The other thing that important about these is that birds do love the fruit again. So if you're expecting to get a fruit crop off of them, you got to protect them from the birds. But that's a good example of some netting that we've got draped over the plants. Variety wise, the project that we worked on, we put in 6 varieties, and most of these varieties that are out there are kind of what we talked about as like one generation out of the woods. You know, these are native plants in North America. There's been some work done with breeding, but most of these varieties, oh, Gray's got a list there, like Adams, York, Nova Scotia, Kent, all those are pretty similar as far as yields go, as far as the size of the clusters, because there's not a lot of difference between them and what you would find growing wild in the woods or in ditches or wherever you would find them. One variety that was a little bit more worked on that we did have, Bob Gordon is one of them, and Wildwood. They were slightly more productive. They had very large plants, 6, 7, 8 feet tall, and really nice size seams on them. That's in reference to that flower structure there with all the fruit on them. But those are a couple good varieties. And again, kind of the best thing to do with them is just to cut them all the way down to the ground every year. And the other thing that does is if you try to do kind of selective pruning on them, where you remove last year's growth where the fruit was, they will fruit from laterals below that, but you're not going to get a concentrated harvest. It's going to be sort of over more of a month-long period versus if you cut them all the way to the ground, you're going to see a lot more concentrated harvest where you might be able to go out and just harvest everything once or maybe twice over a week's period. So that's kind of the nice thing too. Yeah, and
Yeah,
there's that wildwood.
I was just reading what in the chat, the elderberry flowers are fantastic. Let's see if I have a, and also elderberries, and it's just they're relatively easy to propagate, so you can get these cuttings, long cuttings, and then you stick them directly into the field, into the raised beds, and most of the time, pretty much 90-95%, if not 100% of them will root. And these pictures came from our buddy Patrick Byers with University of Missouri, and he retired either last year, the year before. So just how time flies. Do you want to say, are these? I can't remember whether these pictures came from our greenhouse. Ryan, does
Yeah.
this
Mhm.
familiar to you? Go ahead, maybe
Yeah.
say the words.
So one of the great things about elderberry is like Gary said, they're super easy to propagate. And one of the things that if you're interested in kind of increasing your elderberry planting is that when you do cut those plants back to the ground every year, you can cut those canes into sections that have at least 2 nodes on them. And then one of those nodes you want to put below the soil line. So in these pictures here, you can see we just used some normal potting media with peat moss and perlite in there, and then stuck those little cuttings in just a little bit below the soil line where that node is. Obviously, you can't see it, but and then keep that media moist for 6 to 8 weeks and have really good success with rooting that way. Also, I know a lot of people who just root them in water. So they just have a container of water and they stick the canes in there and they'll root that way. We did try some that way and pretty good success, but it's important to note that you need to change that water at least weekly because it does get kind of nasty. And when it does, then it really inhibits root formation on those cuttings. But this is a really good, successful way to do it.
I just saw, just kind of checked in chat. A question was, do you need 2 different varieties for cross pollination? Elderberries do not require cross pollination. However, if you have multiple varieties, you will have much better fruit set. So if you have one solid block of one variety, you will get fruits. But if you grow several different varieties, they tend to pollinate each other, and then you will have a much better fruit set. So not absolutely required, but very highly beneficial. And so for those who are interested in elderberry production, and Ryan and I, we did produce a fact sheet on growing elderberry production or growing in Ohio. So you could just Google elderberries in Ohio, and hopefully that fact sheet will come up. So this is what we do during our spare time to help folks in Ohio. Let's see. And so bare rooted or container grown plants, and just a few things how they grow. wildwood. And so Ryan already mentioned how to prune American elderberry bushes. So this is what they look like. A typical bush looks like in during the winter months. And so so uh, if you want to make a little bit of money, and then you can actually sell these elderberry cuttings. One of the fruit growers in southern Ohio, and they have about 3 to 4 acres of elderberries and of different varieties. I may have a couple slides of them, but anyways, let's see if I do. So this is what they look like, and yeah, you could just cut them, just cut everything to the ground, and then maybe sell the cuttings on Facebook or something. Uh, well, just a word of caution is this is a kind of a official statement. You need a well, ideally you need to have a license for doing this, but we're not the police. ODA is. So just a few insects and Japanese beetles. They love the elderberry flowers, and they also get on the leaves, but they can feed on the flowers and then hurt them pretty bad. Spotted wing Drosophila, that's a pretty devastating little insect on elderberries as well. So so that those are American elderberries, and so I think it was last night, and I got an email from Stan Coral, and this is his European elderberry bush, European elderberry bush. So as you can tell, European elderberries, and they kind of like to grow more like a multi-stemmed, kind of maybe like a dogwood tree. So it can be a big shrub, but it's also kind of a multi, could be a small tree. So you will have several trunks, and several trunks, and maybe a kind of like lilac, or maybe more like a lilac bush. But anyway, you have a lot of uh, these uh, these canes coming out, and uh, and then if you don't prune them at all, it will just get taller and taller, and you will need a tall ladder to get well, to reach them for fruit harvesting and all that. So I would say we had a few European European varieties. I think one of them is March. Do we just Ryan? Do you remember? Did we just have one, or did we have several different varieties of European elderberries?
We had two varieties. Marge was one of them, and then we had one other variety, but it grew so poorly that it only lasted for a couple years.
Oh, so so our friend Marge is still there, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's still maybe in chat, and if you have European elderberry bushes, and maybe you could just let everybody know how you would prune them. Oh, okay, this is fantastic. TJ successfully uh, rooted elderberry cuttings in water. So kudos to you. Congratulations. So the way this particular one look. So what I would do is I would definitely not remove any of these large branches, because that's kind of your frame, kind of like apples, your scaffold limbs, even though they don't have scaffolds, but these are the main limbs. So what I would do is I would always look for look for new canes, new canes coming out of the base. So these the new shoots or suckers will turn into your future big big trunks or big stems like this. So and then what I would do is I would reduce the height to a manageable, reduce shorten them to more of a manageable height. So in this case, I might just cut to where you have a visible bud or a node. So this might be a good place to make a cut, or even here make a cut. So just kind of cut more like uh, into I don't know whether you could call that a central leader. So more like a kind of pyramidal shape, and then I would just cut them back, and then encourage more shoots to form from the base. And when a cane or stem gets too old and not very productive, I might just yank one of them to force the shrub to produce more shoots. Okay, let me see if anybody. Oh, okay, Sam Dahl. I was just checking to see if anybody, entered any comments about how to prune. So the main idea is to cut them back at different heights, so you could keep this particular shrub in a more of a manageable height. Otherwise, you have to get on a tall ladder to harvest fruits that are like this. That could get kind of dangerous. So that's kind of how I would handle our handle European elderberry bushes. So I think Suzanne mentioned elderberry blossoms, and there are people who do use them and for different things. And let's see if I have a picture. Yeah, here we go. So elderberry flowers, and they typically ripen in June-ish, and June to August. And so this is what they look like in the field in Missouri. And some folks make elderberry wine, and others will make elderberry juice, and also elderberry syrup. Elderberry juice was kind of on the sour side, and I had a taste of it. Um, but elderberry syrup is fantastic, and so this is how some folks use elderberry flowers, and dip them, pan fry them, and I heard they are very tasty. Have not eaten them. Pies, muffins, and they're all really good, and they have a lot of health benefits too. And this is a picture of Taylor. This is Taylor Clark, and he's a pretty tall guy, and this is his elderberry bushes, and that I believe that's Alicia. Um, so that's a lot of flowers, beautiful flowers. Okay, any questions in the chat? If not, or Q&A. If not, we're gonna move to.
Let's this is a good one to answer
Okay.
live. Question is how to easily harvest berries. So that's a great question. And I think one of the best tricks that anybody's ever told us is that when you harvest that whole cluster of berries, to freeze it immediately, and then you can get it out still frozen, and just kind of jostle it around in a bucket, obviously a clean bucket, and the berries just fall off of the stems. So that's probably one of the best advice that we were ever given as far as removing the berries from the stems.
Yeah. Otherwise, just imagine, just millions tens and thousands of little fruits, and you have to pluck off every single fruit stem. So yeah, the winemakers, and that's kind of how they do it. Freeze them first and then shake them off. Gooseberries and gooseberries, and again, our experience was kind of a somewhat limited, and and so uh, so maybe Ryan, you could tell them how you like the gooseberries.
Well, there's a couple of varieties of red that I love, and
Uh-huh.
Pixel or Pixie. It's one of the sweetest gooseberries that we had there, of all the gooseberries. And yeah, I just, as Gary always says, I snacked on all of our stuff. That was probably one of my favorite things to snack on, was that red gooseberry.
Yeah, this picture is a red, I believe it's a red George. That's how my photographic memory works. And I take pictures, and then this is how I remember much of anything as I get older. So they are, yeah, they are kind of like almost like, kind of muscadine type of grapes, and individual fruits, and very very tasty. I also heard that gooseberry pie is very, very good. Well, the fresh gooseberries and lovely gooseberry pie. I never had any, so I was always told that gooseberry pies are fantastic. So, uh, oh, okay, there is one question in chat. Do European varieties need to be pruned or old? Well, European varieties produce fruits on older canes, last year's canes, and so uh, do not remove them. Otherwise, you will not have fruits. Well, you can remove some to reduce the fruit load. So gooseberry pie, I was distracted by gooseberry pie. Very, very tasty, supposedly. So somebody needs to make one, and or maybe I need to make one myself to 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 do quality control. Uh, okay, gooseberries. I actually found a couple of several pictures online, and this guy, an English guy, and he goes by Garden Ninja. So, with a lot of tattoos on his arms, and then the spiky hairdo, and but very very interesting guy, and he's got some YouTube videos online, like how to prune gooseberries. So let's see. So this is what the gooseberries look like, bushes, and look like uh, in March or so, during the winter month. So it's a quite can be a quite thorny shrub. So this guy is very brave, and he prunes them without without any gloves, and they tend to flop, and tend to uh, almost like our maybe ever bearing raspberries, and they don't tend, or maybe more like black raspberries with a lot of thorns, and they tend to grow kind of more arching than vertical. So let's see if he has so when you make cut, and it's always good to make a very clean make a very clean cut away from the bud, to keep them kind of like your apple trees. So on the opposite side of the bud, to keep everything keep the stems nice and healthy. See, this is what they look like. See the mean thorns, a mean thorn on the gooseberry stem, and this is a bud, and you make a vertical, not a vertical, kind of slanted cut away from the bud. So also use sharp tools. Sure. And so so the so with the with gooseberries, it's kind of nice to keep it more like more like a rounded shape, versus just let them this guy calls them the open goblet shape. So more like a rounded shape, and if you let them just creep all over it, and they will still produce fruits, but the fruits will be more on the ground. So you kind of try to keep the more of the vertical shoots, and try to clip off the ones that are growing too horizontal. So, and if you Google gooseberries, and some of the videos in Texas will show up, and then they actually have these miniature gooseberry trees, and so I always say everything is bigger in Texas. Any questions about gooseberries? Small fruit to grow. It's hardy orange, and okay. Squirrels adore gooseberries and must fight them. Yeah, squirrels seem to like whatever we like. Okay, let's devote some time to grapevines. So grapes. Just keep in mind that you have a trunk. Sometimes you have two trunks, and you have they can develop root suckers, and we sometimes use those as a renewal trunk, and sometimes we lop them off. And then the way they produce fruits, and if you cut them kind of short, to two buds or so, 2 to 3 buds. So you will so one when you cut them kind of short, and one of them will produce a long shoot with fruit clusters, and other one might develop a shoot without any clusters. So the good thing about the grapes is their buds are very, very visible, and then their flower buds are compound buds, so you will get leaves, and also fruit clusters. And just going through some of the pictures, and looks like our time is kind of compressed, and just love these grape arbors. And if you don't care about fruits and just care about leaves, this is relatively easy to grow. And these pictures, and first picture came from Biltmore Estate, and these two pictures came from Finger Lakes. Just absolutely love. This is a good place to read, and a good place to take a nap. And just beautiful, beautiful grapes from the same winery / vineyard. So just a few things, and training. So grapes definitely need to be supported. So you need posts, and you need wire, and then so you have a trunk, and then sometimes two trunks, and then you have a permanent arm, and that's called a cordon. So this training system is called bilateral high cordon system. So it's very popular for hybrid grapes. So you can have one or two trunks, and one arm goes one way, and other one goes another way. So this is our vineyard at South Centers near Piketon. This is this is before. I don't know. I think this is before Ryan showed up, and I believe this is Lynn Miller and Tom Harker, and maybe that's Wayne Lewis. And so vineyard, and in terms of training system, and this is what they look like. You have either one trunk or two, and then you have one cordon going each way. So the typical height, and let's see, so that's 36 and 70, 72, so 6 foot tall, 6 foot tall. And then when you a little bit training, when you grow, you could grow unrooted or grafted, and so when you plant this and it's pretty small and you let it go, and then sometimes you can get two nice buds out of them, and so you will have one trunk, or you can get one trunk, let it go one side, and then let the other side develop a shoot, and then you have two trunks. So depending on some people would just kind of let one go one way and other one go other way, and other folks will kind of go will turn them around so they can meet in the middle like this to make sure you have as little blank space as possible. So first year you go like this and plant them two buds, and then you may get like 2 or 3 shoots. So you have a decision to make. You can keep 1 or 2, or but definitely no more than 2. 1, 2, and then you can cut them off. So this is training with 2 trunks, 1, 2, and spring, the second season. This is what they look like. Not a whole lot to call home about. And then second growing season, you will have quite a few shoots. And so the second growing season, what you would do is just cut everything back to one bud, and so leave a stub, so like a 1/4 inch above each bud. So cut everything to one bud, and then anything on the trunks, and you would just during spring you can use you wear gloves, and you could just strip the little shoots off. See, spring of the 3rd year, so after you cut everything to one bud, and my typical model is when in doubt, and leave one bud. So cut, try not to remove everything completely, unless it's getting too far away. But if it's coming from the main cordon, when in doubt, cut it to one bud. So this is a spring of the 3rd year, and then you during the third season, you get a big jungle. You get a big jungle. So there are several approaches to do this. For the American varieties, we leave 5 buds. Some of the hybrids will leave 5 buds, but the more recent development is you cut you cut them shorter. So what I would do is I would come here, I would cut everything to 5 buds first, 5 buds first, and then and then the ones hopefully you did what's called the shoot positioning during the growing season. You would just pull the shoots down and let them naturally droop. So and then you would cut everything to 5 buds, and you would American varieties, or you could cut them to 2 to 3 buds, and that's acceptable too. So in this case, we just cut everything back to 5, and then if you leave this kind of long as either 5 bud cane or 2 bud cane or 3 bud cane, that particular cane will produce fruits. If you cut this back to 1 bud, and then that particular shoot bud will produce a long shoot without any clusters. So it's a constant renewal process. So this will produce fruits. This will produce a long shoot without fruits. So let's look at this. So after you do the pruning, so this is what they look like. Your long shoot will produce fruits. This is your renewal spur. So just if you can, always joke with people, if you can count up to 5, you are in business. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then cut this guy to 1 bud. And the ones that grow that are growing on top of the cordon, you would cut them back to one bud. And so these are all renewal spurs. So during the fourth season, after you cut them like this, they may look kind of pathetic, but then in one season you get a huge jungle like this. You get a huge jungle like this, and then so what you do is, all right, this used to be a 5 bud fruiting cane. So you come here, you would remove this and then leave just one 5 bud cane, and then the next one you would cut off and then cut it back to 5, and then this one you cut this off and get the keep the one cane that's closer to the cordon. So with grape pruning, just keep in mind that you always want to have the fruiting zone as close to the cordon as possible. So here you cut this guy off and you cut this guy off and you save the one that's closer to the cordon, and this one when bud renewal, cut it off and see you cut this guy off, and because this one is these 4 canes are removed, and you keep the one that's closer closer to the cordon, and then these big jungles above, and so you cut them back to one bud renewal spurs. Let's see if I have a picture. See this is what they look like. What they look like. What they look like afterwards. So for most folks, and this is kind of what you deal with, and unless we're talking about the commercial grower who grow what we call the vinifera grapes, and we grow them more on a VSP, vertical shoot positioning system. Let's see, any so I might yeah, the vertical shoot positioning. This is more of a specialized training system for European grapes or wine grapes. Ryan, do you want to say a couple words about VSP? Take a sip of water and then we'll open up our session for questions.
Sure. So in this system, it kind of flips the high cordon upside down. So as you can see in the picture on the right, you have your main catch wire where you train your trunks up to, but it's only about 36 inches off the ground versus in that high cordon system where it's roughly around 6 feet off of the ground. And as Gary mentioned, this is more suited for European varieties because they have a natural habit to grow their shoots upright versus a lot of American varieties and hybrid varieties tend to grow down their shoots. So this positioning system just lends itself more to the growth habit of those European varieties because naturally they want to send their lateral shoots upright. So after you get your trunk and your cordons trained to that bottom catch wire, then from there on out, your shoots are all going straight up in the air, and you have a series of catch wires that those canes grow up through. And as you can see in this picture, you got 3 sets of catch wires that those get trained up through. And then during the growing season, they'll continue to grow. And then you kind of come back through and hedge them. So you hedge the tops, you hedge the sides just to make sure everything's growing up through those catch wires. And you can't see it in the picture. It looks like all the fruit's harvested, or maybe it's hiding behind the leaf. But what that does is it puts all the fruit in a zone that is very, very close to that bottom catch wire. So as you look down the canopy in a system like that, all that fruit is just right there in that zone close to that catch wire. So it's kind of a pretty system. It's very well manicured, but it is a lot more labor intensive in that situation.
As you can tell, I do have a lot more slides than the time allows. So I believe we were supposed to end at about 2:30-ish. So so growers and what they do is once you prune them like this during the growing season, they also do what's called the defoliation, or remove the fruit cluster, remove the leaves around the fruiting zone, and so the fruit clusters will be well exposed to sunlight, and so that will improve the grape quality, fruit quality, and also will improve wine quality. And I wanted to stop here to thank our funder, Ohio Grape Industries Committee, for their funding, and also Ohio Grape Ohio Specialty Crop Block Grant Program, and for their funding. So, and all of the handouts have PowerPoint have been the presentations have been converted into PowerPoint handouts, and so Bradford will send you a link. Do we have let's see, any other questions or even comments? Okay, squirrels, the easiest fruit to grow, hardy orange. Okay, all right. Well, many thanks for your participation, and yeah, really appreciate you showing up for our online webinars, and just absolutely love the nice turnout each time we do this. And so I told Ryan, like, we're gonna keep doing this until there's nobody left. So it's yeah, that's nice. That's very nice, Mike. Appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate your attendance, and just as you can tell, we really enjoy doing this, and so appreciate the nice comments. With positive comments like this, we will just keep doing this, keep doing this every year. But if you have suggestions, let us know too. Let me or Bradford or Ryan know, that so we can um, keep tweaking our presentations and during the growing season. Yeah, we tend to get sidetracked by a lot of get sidetracked by by our everyday tasks, and so it's kind of hard to concentrate on things. Uh, but uh, but if you have good suggestions, let me know. And if you have nice, if you have recommendations for us too, that's okay too. Maybe send us pictures, and I live in Central Ohio, so if you if you live in the vicinity, and if you have really need things to have to show me, maybe email me too, and if I have time, and if I happen to be going that way, and maybe I will. Oh, didn't do
Figs.
figs. Oh, we
Me too, Teresa. Figs are my favorite. So
yeah, did
that you'll have
we
to come back for another session for figs.